Senator, just give us a brief perspective here. Why here today in Cal Poly Pomona for this hearing?
We've brought the Senate Budget Committee here to continue the conversation, continue the debate as to what the future of California will look like relative to the governor's proposal to bring a balanced approach to what is a very serious, unprecedented budget crisis, the result of an international fiscal crisis that is impacting every state across the country. Governor's proposal is to make some very deep and painful, unwelcomed cuts, about $14 billion in resolution so far, but we have about $13 billion more to go. His proposal would be to allow voters to extend current tax rates for another few years until we grow out of this recession so that we can mitigate the damage that is likely to be caused if we have to have an all-cuts budget, damage to our public infrastructure, representing a K through 12 program, higher education, affordable, accessible, of course, concerns for our social services as well. So the stakes are very high. The governor, to his credit, has really put together an unprecedented, broad-based coalition of support for his proposal to let the voters weigh in and to support these tax extensions. And I'm talking about the California Chamber of Commerce working with the California Labor Federation, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, wide variety of business organizations like the Bay Area Leadership Council and the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. All of these folks working even with agricultural groups in the Central Valley to support the governor's proposal. As you've read probably, unfortunately to date, since we need a two-thirds vote threshold to put these questions before the voters, we have not had even a couple Republicans to join us. So we think it's important that as we approach our June 15th deadline, that Californians better understand what is at risk here. And the damage that we have done to public education in recent years is already very heartbreaking. And I suspect we're going to hear from school superintendents today, leaders from higher education as well, the president of this campus, and I suspect students will be here to speak at public comment to say, do not make a second round of very deep cuts. And whereas the governor's original January budget proposal held K through 12 harmless, that will not be the situation if we have to cut 5, 10, 12 billion more out of our budget. It could mean many, many billions of dollars out of K through 12, and whereas the CSU system has already taken a $500 million hit to date, they would experience a second $500 million hit, as with the UC system, similar hit to our community colleges. We're trying to hold on to this public infrastructure, which really allowed California to take root into it, benefit from it, and as a result, grow to be the 8th largest economy in the world. It's because of this inextricable relationship between public and private sectors that has made California so strong. If we were to dismantle and decimate our public sector, our private sector is not likely to come back.
Obviously, Riverside County and its environs are kind of a microcosm of everything you have just mentioned, and I know you'll hear more from local representatives and have a better idea at the close of this. But from first glance and from preparation for this, with all the universities, public and private here, with the community colleges, the schools, where does Riverside County and this area around Cal Poly Pomona stand in all of this?
Well, in my preparation for today, I came to become very well aware of the fact that unemployment rates in these two counties are even higher than the state unemployment rate, which is, of course, higher than the national unemployment rate. By furthering disinvesting state general fund monies from higher education, this is going to be very challenging for our private sector to have an educated workforce so that we can continue to lead the way as a 21st century economic champion. We've seen figures that about 40% of all new jobs created in California by 2020 will require a college diploma. But currently, projections are that only 31% of Californians will have a college diploma. This does not bode well for our future.
Notwithstanding your initial explanation of why we're here and the work to be done, there are some critics out there that are saying, why these hearings? Why are you taking this on the road? The governor's been on the road, the assembly's been on the road. What's the necessity? Why the cost of doing all this? What's the purpose?
I think the question you're asking me is why talk to the voters, the taxpayers of California? Because it is the voters and the taxpayers of California whose future and whose lives are at risk here. I didn't even talk about, though we will in our panels here today, what the risk is to funding for public safety programs, to our COPS program, which is state augmentation of local law enforcement programs. We'll hear from sheriffs, we'll hear from the district attorney. You know, the sheriffs of California are in support of the governor's proposal. The police chiefs of California are in support of the governor's proposal. The district attorneys of California are in support of the governor's proposal. As I say, Governor Brown should be credited with an extraordinary broad base of support. It's really a minority of folks who are opposed, and we need to engage Californians so they will lobby their legislators in their own districts to say, wake up, folks. We cannot experience a second round of such deep cuts.